Spokane boxing community is remembering Dylan Bundy Gray tonight, the man who was shot and killed on his porch last weekend. Tonight, how they are honoring his legacy. An Idaho bill aimed at protecting high-risk newborns written in response to the death of a 12-day-old baby is getting close to hitting the governor's desk. Everything we know about it tonight.
Mild and dry weather is expected for Saturday, but I am tracking the chance for a little bit of rain before the weekend ends and cooler temperatures for the upcoming week.
Good evening and thank you for joining us for KREM 2 News at 5 tonight. I'm Mark Hanrahan. Tonight, the Spokane boxing community is mourning the loss of a beloved coach. Dylan Bundy Gray died in a shooting last weekend in North Spokane, leaving friends and fighters remembering the man behind the gloves. KREM 2's chief journalist Amanda Rowley shares his impact inside the ring and the gym that he called home.
This corner of the ring is where Dylan Bundy Gray coached several fighters. And now it's where people who knew him best are remembering the lessons he left behind.
This gym is usually loud.
It's ballistic, so to speak.
Gloves popping, voices shouting. Today, inside Spokane boxing, it's the silence left behind by Coach Dylan Bundy Gray that hits the hardest.
I'm not comfortable with silence in my gym.
Every corner of this gym holds a memory. For Nick Welliver, many of them belong to Dylan.
Sometimes I'd pop in the middle of the day and he'd be working out with somebody or himself. He was just a big part of our gym and good to everybody.
Rick trained alongside Dylan here, a boxer turned coach who helped guide fighters in this ring.
He was the kind of guy that wouldn't allow anybody to fail.
Spokane police say Dylan was shot and killed last weekend in North Spokane. The 16-year-old suspect who faces murder and assault charges will be tried as an adult.
We lost a coach, we lost a boxer. We lost a friend.
This loss isn't just personal. It's felt in every corner of the gym, especially this one.
During sparring, he'd usually be in that corner. Coaching guys, I would be in that corner.
Even in the quiet, Rick says Dylan's lessons haven't faded.
That being a nice guy still matters.
And for many at Spokane Boxing, that's the legacy he leaves behind. Amanda Rowley, KREM 2 News.
All right, let's take a break from the headlines to talk weather on this Friday evening with meteorologist Michelle Boss. Michelle, another nice day, although another chilly start to the day, too.
Yeah, we were in the upper 20s this morning, but we are getting into that time of year with the time change and, of course, more daylight hours where we're hitting those high temperatures a little bit later in the day. And that is the case for today. Just came in at 57 degrees at 5 o'clock. And so that looks like that's going to be our high for today. Pretty nice because combine that with light winds and full sunshine and a great way to kick off our weekend. 57 in Spokane and Coeur d'Alene, just under 60 degrees in Ritzville and Moses Lake, and some 60s down in Lewiston as well. Mild temperatures up north in the upper 50s. And of course, full sunshine. Taking a look at satellite and radar. Of course, no precipitation anywhere across the region. Got a lot of blue skies out there. That is going to be changing and evolving as we get deeper into the weekend. And unfortunately, I think today is probably going to be the nicest of the entire weekend. We are expecting some more cloud cover coming in tonight and tomorrow. I think it'll be thin enough that we'll see some filtered sunshine tomorrow, but Sunday is looking cooler, breezier with the chance for some wet weather, and it does look like the upcoming week is going to be on the cool side.
All right, sounds good, Michelle. Thank you very much. An Idaho bill aimed at protecting high-risk newborns is close to hitting the governor's desk. Benji's law is a push to require faster safety checks for Idaho's most vulnerable infants. Aspen Schumpert with our Boise sister station has more tonight.
He should be here today.
Advocates say a gap in Idaho's child welfare system left a 12-day-old Nampa baby without protection.
Idaho is behind.
Monique Perry spent 2.5 years fostering and later adopting 3 siblings who were removed from a home with documented abuse and hazardous conditions. So when she learned the biological parents were expecting another, she immediately worried.
I called Health and Welfare. I couldn't wait. I was just kind of like, I want to hope things have changed. I could not live with the idea of knowing he was coming and not saying anything.
That call was a week before baby Benjamin Lemke was born. Perry says after learning Benji was born, she and other mandated reporters familiar with Benji's parents continued to call authorities, begging for a safety check on Benji. Callers say they were told the situation did not warrant an immediate response.
That was just hard for me because I'm like, history is evidence, and sometimes the history, when it's as recent as it was in this case, like, that should have spoken for something.
Baby Benji was just 12 days old when he died.
But a wave of grief and pain and heartache and just that heaviness.
Court documents show a Child Protection Services worker was messaging Benji's father, Brian Lemke, the afternoon before the baby died to try and schedule a visit to make sure Benji was okay. Investigators say Lemke and Benji's mother, Allison Armenta, were living in a trailer in Nampa at the time, and investigators believe the couple found the baby unresponsive after falling asleep with him in the bed. Court documents allege the couple delayed reporting the baby's death. The Canyon County coroner has not released the autopsy report for baby Benji, but court records list the possibility of suffocation as the cause of death. Lemke and Armenta, who are both awaiting trial, were charged with felony injury to a child, hiding evidence, and failing to report a death.
I personally think there was that policy missing where there should have been quicker action is really what it was.
Now, Idaho lawmakers are trying to close that gap with House Bill 776, also known as Benji's Law. Senator Tammy Nichols is a sponsor of the bill. She says when a mandatory reporter, such as a foster parent, doctor, or law enforcement officer, files a child protection report for a child under 1 year old, and their parent has a documented history of abuse, child welfare workers must respond within 12 hours. That includes prior convictions for injuring a child, a previous termination of parental rights, or an infant born with drugs in their system.
The goal is just simply for quicker action in documented high-risk situations.
The bill passed out of the Senate Health and Welfare Committee Monday in a 5-3 vote. Supporters say this is a necessary step.
Let's put eyes on someone. If these risk factors occur, doesn't mean I'm going to separate you or cut off parental rights. It is a safety check and elevates it within a time period.
While those against worry it goes too far and could harm families with no current evidence of harm.
I think this kind of helps IDHW play God mode.
But for Perry, she says the stakes could not be higher.
Do you think if this law was in place when Benji was born, that it could have saved his life?
You know, you look at these babies and you're like, they can't do anything. They can't defend themselves in whatever situation they're in. I think it genuinely could have.
Coming up on KREM 2 News at 5 tonight, from Iran war updates to the DHS funding fight, we dive into those latest updates impacting Americans coming up after the break. And a local group is working to help keep veterans warm through handmade quilts that represent more than just a blanket. That story coming up in 8 minutes.